I think Jesus was insane, and Hitler wasn't, while the current view is exactly the opposite.
I'm sure you're familiar with the hypothesis. I'd love to know what you think of it, that actually in early Christianity, Jesus was not supposed to be seen as a historical figure. It was an allegorical story, and that some of the testaments knew it perfectly well. It was just purely allegorical. It was a story of a man who became a Messiah. Do you think that's a likely?
There is no early Christianity. That's the problem.
Right.
In very, very so-called early, first of all, there was no Christianity. It
Right.
was for a very long time perceived as a Jewish sect.
Yeah.
A rebellious, heretical Jewish sect. Not
Yeah.
a Jewish sect all the same. One of many.
Yeah.
Quite a few. The Essenes, others.
And they were kind of competing with each other as well.
No, it wasn't competition, but it was like
Breakaways.
breakaways.
Yeah.
So the Essenes went to the desert, Jesus went to Galilee. I mean, every tiny region had its own nutcase. John the Baptist, before Jesus, was absolutely much more. John the Baptist was much more popular than Jesus. A hell of a lot more popular. Jesus, in entire ministry, succeeded to attract 12 people.
Right.
And I'm serious. And John the Baptist is a following of hundreds, including the royal house at some point. So John the Baptist was a good promoter. He was. Jesus wasn't so much. So, but after Jesus died, then started competition, and there was his family. His family moved to Jerusalem, and they established kind of they declared themselves his successors. And there was Paul. So there were the Syrian Aramaic Transjordan clan, and they declared themselves the true inheritor. And in Rome, and in Greece, and in Thessaloniki at the time, started some movement.
Right.
With some people who heard of Jesus and got in touch with some guys from Palestine, and they started their own kind of thing. So for well over 200 years. And then there was another center in Alexandria. So for well over 200 years, there were 4 centers.
Yeah.
Completely in disagreement, no collaboration, competing and so on. The Transjordan Syrian Aramaic part realized the potential in Rome. And so they moved to Rome and Greece. And you have Paul going to Greece, to Thessaloniki, and Peter going to Rome, and so on. So they began to form an axis of Rome and the Jewish part, which were in Jerusalem, and mostly James and so on, the brothers of Jesus and so on. They were Jews to the core, so they felt that Romans are an abomination. They refused to work with Rome, which was a horrible mistake. It's like refusing to work with Donald Trump in Washington. And so they lost the game.
Right.
200-300 years ago, they lost the game.
Yeah.
And Jews all over paid the price. For example, there were riots in Alexandria. But what people don't realize that is in the first 200-300 years, Christians were slaughtering each other. Jews were slaughtering Christians. So, for example, in Alexandria, the Jews made a pogrom of Christians. Really? They killed numerous Christians.
Because it was a...
heretical.
I was going to say anti-Jewish, but it was a complete heresy. Yeah.
So the Jews in Alexandria, not the other way, the Jews in Alexandria killed the Christians. In Rome, in Jerusalem, it was the same. They chased away Christians, and Christians went to Syria. And in Rome, there were clashes between Judaism and Christianity. For well over 200 years, there were 2 religions which dominated Rome. Zoroastrianism, which was the religion of the soldiers and the military classes, and therefore the emperor, and Judaism. Judaism became so popular in Rome that the daughters of several emperors converted to Judaism.
Right.
It was very popular. So Judaism felt threatened by this breakaway sect. And so Jews were suppressing early Christians in Rome.
Yeah.
It was a very mixed picture. It was a totally crazy picture, because for a very long time, Paul, and for example, so they thought of themselves as Jews. They thought that they are reforming Judaism.
Yeah.
And they resented the fact that Jews didn't recognize the Messiah had come.
Yeah.
And so it was a civil war within Judaism, at the end of which Christianity was formed, as a counter, as a reaction to rejection by Judaism. Christianity is the outcome of rejection and humiliation by a well-established, powerful religion, Judaism.
And would you agree with Nietzsche's ideas around slave morality as far as that
Judeo-Christian. Nietzsche is a severely misunderstood person, perhaps because he was a bit on the insane side. He also, his writing is very impressionistic.
Right.
It's not structured, not Kant. Sorry, not Kant. Kant.
He's not a Kant.
Yeah, he was not a Kant. Yeah. No, seriously, all these philosophers, they were very structured. I mean, Schopenhauer, for example, tells you to commit suicide and explains it in 13 epistles and why you should commit suicide. And it's very German, It's Ordnung muss sein, Arbeit macht frei, and you should open the shower, it will work, don't worry. And so they're all very structured. Nietzsche and later Kierkegaard were the two impressionistic, because they were a bit on the insane side. So what they did, it's like epigrams. They wrote sentence here, sentence there. Interestingly, Wittgenstein, who was a Jew, later adopted the same writing style of Kierkegaard and Nietzsche, but for mathematics and logic.
Right.
And he revolutionized mathematics and logic in this way, with these tractates. And so coming back to Nietzsche. Nietzsche is widely misunderstood. Of course, misinterpreted by the Nazis on purpose, and so on. Nietzsche didn't talk about, when he talked about slave mentality and Übermensch, Superman and so on, he wasn't talking about any external realities. He said that people need to overcome internalized slave mentality so that they all become Supermen. He was not talking about an elite. Or he was saying that all humanity can become Supermen by overcoming.
So it wasn't a criticism of Christianity as such.
No, he did say that it was a Judeo-Christian tradition that made us internalize this slave mentality.
Right.
So he was blaming Judeo-Christian tradition. But what people don't, I think, misunderstand is that he was not talking about a new elite of Supermen.
Right.
Who would he says all of us must become Supermen by transcending the slave mentality, which was embedded in us via Judeo-Christian tradition. And it's very interesting that, for example, Adolf Hitler used these arguments, and he was saying that Judeo-Christian enslaved the Aryan people. It was they became slaves to the Judeo-Christian tradition, and that his role is to free the Aryan people from the Judeo-Christian tradition. And if he succeeds in that, they will all become Übermenschen. They will all become Supermen. And in this highly restricted sense, he is a Nietzschean. Hitler was a Nietzschean. But the problem was how he saw Übermenschen is not how Nietzsche saw Übermensch.
Right.
Nietzsche said that the Übermensch will be morally superior. Yes. Morality will come as a natural extension of your supermanhood.
Yes, yeah.
Not as something imposed by a sadistic god on
jackboots and guns. And this was Nietzsche's sister, though. Didn't she encourage Hitler with the? She knew, or maybe she didn't know, but it was a misinterpretation. She was always an anti-Semite, wasn't she?
Yeah.
And she was a racist, and
they were. Some parts of his family. Wagner's family is the same. Yeah. There were whole families of former intellectuals and so on. Even some relatives of Schopenhauer and so on. That they kind of. Hitler was extremely well read, by the way.
Yeah.
He was extremely knowledgeable person, but erudite even, but not organized. Very chaotic thinking.
Right.
Also impressionistic. If you read Mein Kampf, it's a very impressionistic book. And
I just in preparation for this, I did read a little bit of Mein Kampf the other day, and one of his speeches, and erudite was one of the words that came. He wasn't a stupid man.
No. Far from stupid, and extremely knowledgeable. Not knowledgeable. Yeah. Extremely knowledgeable.
Yeah.
In restricted fields like politics, history, and philosophy, but extremely knowledgeable.
But insane.
Hitler?
Yes.
I don't think he was insane. No.
You don't think Hitler was insane?
No. People use the word insane very wrongly.
Yeah.
No offense.
Yeah.
Well, yes, offense. My pleasure. I need to get something out of this
take
interview.
offense.
I need to get something out of this interview. I insulted Richard Grannon and live to tell about it. No, I'm kidding. People use the term insane very loosely. For example, probably you know that several serial killers were interviewed, and then the psychiatrist decided they're totally sane.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, for example, Dahmer. Dahmer was interviewed by numerous psychiatrists, of course. They all said he was totally sane, and consequently, he was sentenced as a sane person. There was no insanity defense.
Doesn't that mean there's political pressure in the context? Then?
No.
Like people were saying, say he's sane, so we can
No, not really.
gas him.
No, I agree with him that he was sane. Eccentric, unusual, outlier doesn't mean insane.
Kills people.
So, what's insane about this?
Eats their flesh.
These are not the parameters of insanity. This is definitely an unusual behavior and bad culinary taste. But
it's definitely an unusual behavior.
yeah, well, to some extent. And bad culinary taste, I would agree. And for this alone, he should have been executed. But it's not technically insane. We have a very, in modern clinical psychology, it's exactly the course I just taught in Rostov. The course was, what is insanity?
Oh, really?
Yeah, the whole course was, what is insanity? And I gave several examples. For example, a woman who was instructed by God to kill her children. On which grounds can we say that she's insane? She didn't hear voices. She just interpreted certain texts as telling her to kill her children. Does that mean she's insane? And I dedicated a whole lecture, about 4 hours, to analyzing each and every snippet. We, all of us, reached a conclusion that she was not insane. Certainly not insane. She misinterpreted the text and so on. But insanity is very clearly demarcated. And Hitler was by no means insane. He was eccentric in some ways. He was, his beliefs were ill-founded. He was badly educated in other senses. He had a lot of hatred and rage. Yes, I mean, absolutely, he had very poor impulse control. He had, but the totality is not insanity. He was not insane. Right. Insanity means several things. And if you fulfill this criteria, you are insane. First of all, inability to separate inner space from outer space. Inability to separate reality from what's happening inside you.
Yeah.
When you conflate and confuse them. When inner voices are projected and you think they're talking to you. Introjects are talking to you. When you begin to see things, hallucinate, etc., etc. These are inner fragments, inner constructs that are projected, and you acquire an ontological aura, acquire their own existence. That's one very important test. The second test is, can you tell right from wrong? Most healthy people can tell right from wrong. I mean, all healthy people. That you disagree with Adolf Hitler about what's right and wrong doesn't make him insane. Makes him your adversary. Yeah. Hitler thought it was perfectly right to kill the Jews. There's nothing there. I mean, you can disagree with him. And as a Jew, I would tend to disagree with him. But it doesn't make him insane. So, ability to tell right from wrong. We have numerous speeches of Hitler where he says, this is wrong. Shouldn't be done. So, but he had a different way of. Then there is the question of external or internal. This is how we define insanity. External and internal locus of control. Do you believe that your life is utterly controlled from the outside by some agency, or is it controlled from the inside to some extent? Now Hitler, for example, had an external locus of control when it came to the Jews. In other words, he had a persecutory delusion when it came to the Jews. But he didn't go that as far as to say that everything was determined by the Jews. No. He didn't say, for example, there's nothing I can do about it. I mean, I'm a puppet. That's it.
And he didn't mythologize the Jews or turn it into a superstitious or religious.
He did, but that's not insanity.
Oh.
He just said he just didn't feel that there's nothing he can do about it.
Right.
It's very critical.
Yeah.
For example, if you go to a classic schizophrenic paranoid, they would tell you, listen, CIA is after me. That's why I'm wearing the tinfoil hat. and there's nothing you can do about it. They are after me, they've been after me, and they will always be after me. There's absolutely nothing I can do about it. So I can go and kill a few CIA agents, but it won't change the equation, they will kill me. I mean, it's fatalism. That's it. Hitler, ironically, the Holocaust proves that Hitler was healthy, mentally healthy. Because Hitler said, listen, there is this tribe of bacteria, viruses, and vermin who are destroying my life, and I'm going to fucking kill them. It's a healthy reaction. Do you understand that?
I understand the internal logic. Does that mean that, would you say that somebody who's been diagnosed as a psychopath or a narcissist, they're not technically insane?
Absolutely not.
They're not insane?
No one says they're insane. The DSM, Diagnostic Statistical Manual, doesn't say that narcissists are insane. Personality disorders are not considered mental illness.
Your description of the three definitions of insanity fit the profile of many of my clients. They can't. Their locus of control is purely external. They can't distinguish between internal and external boundaries. They have no internal or external boundaries.
No boundaries. But for example, hearing voices, or seeing.
So it's like psychosis then, a kind of
psychosis. Absolutely.
Oh, that's insane. That would. Oh, okay.
So Hitler was evil, eccentric, you name it, delusional to some extent, narcissistic.
Disordered. Was he
personality disorder? Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. But not insane.
Okay.
Jesus, for example, I don't know. I would consider Jesus insane, not Hitler. But because Jesus...
You consider Jesus a narcissist as well?
Well, narcissist, yes. And that doesn't render him insane.
Okay.
But talking to God might.
So he was a narcissist with psychotic...
With pronounced psychotic elements.
Yeah.
He also had total external locus of control.
Right.
He said, that's it. I have to be crucified. God told me. I mean, that's it. Nothing I can do about it. I cannot run away.
Yeah.
I cannot pretend that I'm not Jesus.
Or just change his tune. All he had to do was just change his tune.
Disappear, go to Galilee, become a fisherman. I mean, so many options. Yeah. He said, there's nothing you can do about it. It's preordained. Yeah. That's it, I'm going to die. I have to die. Actually, he interceded. The Roman soldiers came to Gethsemane, to this garden, and asked, who is Jesus? They didn't know him. Yeah. They didn't know how he looks like. Yeah. He was a nobody, he was a zero. Non-entity. Yeah. So who the hell is Jesus? Because the Jews were pressuring them to arrest this guy. Yeah. They didn't even know who is it. And they paid Judas to kind of identify. And Judas was reluctant at the last moment. He didn't want to identify. And Jesus told him, do it. Point the finger at me. His will must be done. Utter external locus of control. Yeah. Jesus committed suicide. I mean,
it's death by cop, isn't it?
Yes. The irony is that Jesus violated the precept, the tenet of all religions. Never commit suicide. I mean, Catholicism excommunicates you if you commit suicide. They are not allowed to be buried in hallowed ground. Judaism the same. Islam the same. Suicide is absolutely the first thing banned. Why? Because your life is not your own. It was given to you as a gift by God. It's like slapping God in the face. It's utterly unacceptable. But there is one historical figure who absolutely committed suicide in every possible way, and that's Jesus. He made sure to commit suicide. And yet, he's considered the founder of religion. Yeah. There is something about these historical figures that won't let us see straight. Yeah. You know. So, for me, as far as I'm concerned, having studied Jesus very thoroughly, written, and so, I think Jesus was insane, and Hitler wasn't, while the current view is exactly the opposite.